Annyeong, it's Mikey here. Guys, thank you so much for all the support and just how far this channel has come. Now, today I got an interesting video. I know I've been doing a lot of Wooting switches, but Akko sent me out their newest Astrolink. So thank you again to Akko, and we're going to have to see how this switch is, compare it with the other ones, and see if this can actually get into my top 3. So let's go straight into the unboxing, take a look, and hear those sound tests. And please make sure to like and subscribe. Starting off with the unboxing of the Akko Astrolink. Thank you again, Akko, for sending me this out. Now, as you can see here, Akko's packaging is always really great. One thing I noticed about Akko and their Switch packaging is that they've done a really great job, and recently they changed up their packaging where it's now coming in a plastic case where it's super well organized with the switches. You can actually take them out, put them in there one by one individually if you'd like. This is a great way to even store your own switches or other types of switches. Great thing that Akko's done is that now it's, instead of having like a box that you're going to throw away, you actually have something that can be reused multiple times. Now this is the Akko Astrolink Switch. I was quite impressed with the build quality of it. The look of it itself as well is like really a space themed switch, so you can definitely take a look at that and see that. All right, it's called Astrolink, so you can definitely see that's the kind of thing that they're looking at. Now I do want to give you guys a little bit more of the inside of the switch as well before we go into the sound test. And taking a look, taking it apart, you can see that it has the bottom housing, which is a closed off bottom housing, which is really nice to see. Right, closed off will help a lot in terms of muting sound, but you know, with magnetic switches, we always have to see after the sound test. It comes with the 3.4 millimeter travel, as you guys saw earlier, right, 4 to 6 gram in terms of the full force of like pressing down on the switch. It's supposed to be a 20 millimeter spring, so as you can see here when we're measuring it out, we're looking at about 20 millimeters. So 20 millimeter spring in terms of the Astrolink switch. And just with my measuring tool, it's not fully accurate. You know, there's going to be a bit of a mismeasurement for it for sure, but it is a 20 millimeter spring. Now, in total with this build, definitely is interesting. It does come pre-lubed for factory settings. Sorry, I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a closer look. So as you can see here, this is the stock Akko, and as you can see here, it is pre-lubed on the sides of the stem. Not crazily, just a very, very light lubing that was done. And of course, we're going to see the difference between my hand lubing, which is going to be lubing over this, or the stock lubing, which honestly, I'm thinking with the amount of lubing that was done, it should be pretty smooth and pretty good where even stock will work. And in terms of the magnetic portion right there, you can see that it is slightly off and past the bottom of the stem. And then we have the top light diffuser. And of course, we're going to now have to go into the sound test and compare it. So there's one thing I noticed while I was taking out the switches and, doing all these changes with the board is that the switches are actually quite light. Like they're small. What I mean by light is they're very easily to take out. Like right there, that moment, I put it back in and then actually pulled it out with my hand. I noticed that with these switches. So keep that in mind for yourselves. They're a little bit on the smaller side and they are going to be very loose to come out. Now, in terms of the stem wobble here, these are actually really nice. They're not going to get a ton of stem wobble on them, especially on the top side and on the bottom side as well. As you can see, very, very little stem wobble. I was quite surprised with it. Honestly, thought there would be a lot more stem wobble, but definitely very little stem wobble on these. You will still have some. So on the bottom end, you will still have some. So for those that are very sensitive to stem wobble, you will notice that with the Akko Astrolink switches. And one thing as well that I was wanting to mention before, the sound on these switches is quite muted. One thing I felt was they are very on the quiet side and definitely on the deeper sounding side compared to, say, a lot of the other popular switches out there. Like, for example, the T Switch, which I really like, or the Geon Raw. I think the Astrolinks are definitely more on the deeper sounding side, but still not thock. So keep that in mind, still not on the thocky side. Now, as you can see here, this is the backlighting of the switch, and it is quite bright. The lighting goes through really well. One thing I did notice for the Akko Astrolink is the fact that the lighting is quite accurate. You're not going to get a ton of color disfiguration or like inaccuracy in the colors because of the color of the switch itself. It's actually quite accurate. I'm doing different color schemes here. This is actually at the 100% brightness, and then I can show you guys also with, comparing underneath the keycaps, or my keycaps aren't shine through, but as you can see, the lighting is going to the upper end of it, the north side, and it is shining through quite a bit. It is really bright on these switches for sure. I think the backlighting on these switches are done very well and quite accurate in terms of the color. This is the blue lighting. The white lighting, of course, in the Wooting isn't like actual white. It's more pinkish, so keep that in mind. And I even tried a yellow. As you can see here, the yellow is coming out still yellow. This is at the 70% brightness on these switches. And then when you're using the tachyon mode, and of course, when you go into the brighter 100%, it still gets even brighter. And as you can see here, this is me going down even to 50 and then back to 100. So these switches are definitely really good for backlighting. So for those that like that, definitely take a look at these switches. Overall, I would have to say these switches sound quite satisfying. I was quite impressed with that because magnetic switches so far, like Hall effect switches, haven't been so great in terms of just pure crisp, like sound, like satisfying sound, like the mechanical switches out there. The ones that I felt still were pretty good with satisfaction was like the T Switch, the Geon Raw. The Akko Astrolink is actually one of those switches. Even though the sound is a little bit more quiet and muted compared to, say, the other switches out there, I have felt that it was quite satisfying in terms of the sound. And these are pretty good switches, honestly, like especially when you consider the price, right? You're getting $47 for 90 switches is really not bad. And yes, there is still that downside though, where the switch is a bit small and can be a bit loose in terms of there. But I honestly think that the Akko Astrolink is something that you should definitely go take a look at, especially if you're looking for something that is a little bit deeper sounding, that's not thocky, but it's not like a high clack sound and it's still satisfying. Now, we did the sound test and everything for the Astrolink, the Akko Astrolink, and honestly, these switches impressed me quite a bit. There is that downside of where it is a little bit small, so it's going to be loose inside of your keyboard. It doesn't fall out like when you're typing or anything, but when you are pulling off the keycaps, there's a chance that these are just going to pop right off. So keep that in mind for yourselves. Honestly, the sound profile, very interesting. It sounds so familiar to me, but I just can't pinpoint what it sounds similar to. So if you guys know, please leave it in the comments, because I'm really like trying to think about it, but I just can't pinpoint it. And it's like right on the tip of my tongue and I just can't figure it out. So let me know in the comments if you know what it sounds like, but definitely sounds a little bit deeper. I'd put this into my top 3 now because it is quite interesting and quite satisfying to type on and hear. And honestly, a little bit deeper too, which is really nice. So not a thock. We're almost there, it seems, but not full thock yet. So go take a look at these. I'll have the links in the description, and please go check out the other videos I got, and I'll catch you guys next time.